I'd like to demonstrate another thing that this machine is capable of doing, even though it's not something that you'll find listed in the manual, and that is making I-cord. And I-cord has lots of uses. This is done on a very small stitch size setting, but if you wanted to do felting, you could make this in a much larger stitch size and then felt it down. It makes great purse handles and things like that. But anyway, I'll show you how to make this. Let's start by bringing up 6 needles, and I'm going to do an E-wrap on those needles. Thread it into the carriage, and I'm just going to wrap this back and forth a little bit so I don't have to worry about it at the end. And the idea behind creating I-cord is that you want to knit in one direction and slip in the other direction. It doesn't really matter which. And on this machine, I'll bring the carriage over a little closer to the camera. I just got a little loop here, but I'm just going to leave that since it's at the beginning. On this carriage, there's no individual slip settings left and right. There's only a universal slip setting. So what you have to do in order to do this is to switch back and forth every row from stockinette to slip, stockinette to slip. So I'm going to put some weight on this, and we'll get underway. So I'm going to slip back, and you'll notice, pardon my arm being in the way, but I'm going to be pulling the yarn up a little bit as I knit back so I don't get a loop like I did on this first row. So they're slipped, and then I'm going to reset the carriage back to stockinette, knit back. So that row knit. Again, I want to slip. It makes just a gigantic float. And then knit back, slip, knit back. And once I get a little bit more length here, I'm going to add a second weight. That seems to help a lot with getting, especially with getting these end needles to knit off properly. So I will knit a little bit more, and then I'll come back on camera and show you what it looks like. So I've knitted a couple of inches. I'm going to add a second claw weight, but before I do, you can just see that it looks unlikely that it's ever going to look like a tube, but in the end you'll see that it comes together quite nicely. So add a little weight and go back to slipping, knitting, slipping, knitting. Okay, a few more inches off camera and then I'll take it off. Several inches knitted, I'm going to take one of these claw weights off. And before I take this off, I just wanted to point out that one of the other things that you can do with I-cord is to make an I-cord edging for something. A hem or the front closure of a sweater or something like that, or a hat, edge of a hat. And to do that, all you would do is take your you know, like if this were a sleeve and I wanted to put the I-cord edging on the bottom, you could either do it from the inside or the outside depending on the look you wanted, but it would just be a sew as you go kind of thing. And with the carriage, in this case on the right, I would simply put this on the needle and then knit to the left, slip to the right, put another stitch on the needle, and so forth. And that's how you can just attach an I-cord edging as you go. But for now, I'm just going to do a quick loop through loop bind off on this and take it off, and we'll see what it looks like. And you can also do these with, you know, whatever amount of stitches you want. It depends on the yarn and the tension, that kind of thing, and how, you know, obviously how big you want the cord to be. But in this case, I just simply chose to use 6 needles. You could use probably as few as 4 and more than 6 if you wanted to. Best to just experiment and see what works best with your yarn. And then, kind of like magic, I mean, here's what it looks like. You can see with the long floats, and give it a good tug. And those floats pretty well disappear. And then especially if you use this for felting and you put this through the wash, it really disappears. And of course, if it's attached to the edge of a garment or something, you really don't see that. So that's I-cord on the Studio 151, even though it's not something that's in the book. Thanks for watching.